Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to learn about another extremely important concept in CSS. That is nothing but positioning mods. This is one of the most complex topics in this section, so make sure you pay good attention. Positioning is very important because it allows us to control where element appears on our web page. There are several different positioning modes in CSS, but for now we are going to focus on the two important ones, that is normal flow and another one is absolute positioning. Normal flow is simply the default positioning behavior of elements of a web page. In other words, we can create HTML elements without applying any special positioning. The browser places them in a normal flow. For example, if you see the layout of this, there is a button here, and if we move closer, so if I move it here and there, it changes according to that. If I create a button for the normal flow, I'll create it after the container. So I'm creating a button. So in that button, I'm giving like. For the emoji or the like button, we could use simple shortcut like Windows plus dot. So this is not an extension. This is a feature of VS Code. So here we use this like. Now if I save this and go back to our code, and if I save this and run this, as you can see, there is a button below the footer. The heading comes the first, the paragraph, and then the button. So this means the elements are in a flow. So we can also use for this I'm creating an. So now we came for the absolute positioning. So absolute positioning allows us to position an element almost anywhere we want on the page. So we activate it by keeping I'm giving the button position, that is absolute. So if I refresh this, oh, not pretty much nothing. So, and this changes the behavior of the element, and absolute position element is removed from the normal flow. So we can say that the element is now out of flow. This means that the element no longer takes up the space in the normal layout. It also means that the element no longer has the same impact on the surrounding elements. In fact, an absolute positioned element can even overlap other elements. For example, imagine we have a button positioned on the top of some text. The surrounding content does not move out of the way. Instead, the button simply sits on top of it. And this is one of the most important characteristics of absolute positioning. How do we actually tell an absolute position element where to go? We can use 4 CSS properties, that is nothing but top, right, bottom, and left. So for example, if I give this a top of 0 and left of 0. So if I refresh this, now you can see the button got removed here and it is above. So if I change this to 50 pixels and this one also to 50 pixels. So if I refresh this, this tells the browser to position the element 50 pixels from the top and 50 pixels from the left. But now we have an important question, that is 50 pixels from where? This is where absolute positions become very interesting. So we can also change this to, I'm just commenting this, and also I'm giving bottom to 0 and right to 0. As you can see, it is now here. and then a button moves to the bottom right corner of the viewport. So the important thing is here that the browser needs some reference point from which it can count these pixels, and by the default the reference point is the viewport. But usually positioning an element related to viewport isn't what we want. Imagine that we have a blog post and we want to put a like button in the bottom right corner of the blog post. We don't want the button to be in the bottom right corner of the browser window. We want it to be in the bottom right corner of the blog post or one of its containers. I'm coming to the body and giving the position to relative. So if I refresh this, as you can see, it moved to bottom. We go back to our button. Here I am giving the bottom of 50 pixels, and also the right will be 50 pixels too. So if I refresh this, okay, it moved to 50 pixels from the right. I'm giving the position relative to the container. As you can see, if I give the position relative to the container, it goes for this one, and I'm keeping back normal. So I'm giving it to the body, and now we have to change the font size to 22 pixels, and also I'm giving the padding to 20 pixels. So if I refresh this, as you can see, and another thing is the cursor changes. So I'm giving the cursor to pointer. So when we refresh this and go back to our page, as you can see, the cursor also changes, and now it looks more similar. So make sure you experiment with these CSS properties like position relative and position absolute, and with the top right, bottom left also. Once you understand the relation between the parent and the absolute position child, CSS positioning will start to make much more sense, and that's for the foundation of CSS positioning.